Hello, and welcome to another episode of Climb, the Confident Leader podcast, where we share stories of leaders from being invisible to becoming an influencer. I'm your host, Rahul Karan Sharma, and today I'm here with a guest who is coming from a very different background than usual as compared to the guests that I have so far. She is a social justice warrior who has served the United States with boldness and relentlessness, faith in its people and judicial system. She's a certified mediator and has proven to be a force to reckon with and has successfully won many cases for local, state, and federal levels. While her passion is the law, she is not a lawyer. Clients and employee teams have received multiple benefits of having her as one of our mediator or ally, which is the severance pay, promotions, new apartments, stopped wrongful evictions, and many more. What clients love about this individual is that her cases have constant movement. The cases that she fight have constant movement. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO and head legal negotiator, Ms. Dana Carter, to our show. Welcome to Line
Hello.
Podcast, Dana. How are you doing today?
I am great, and how are you?
Doing awesome. And I'm glad to have you with us and
Yeah,
share a
thank you
very
so
different
much.
perspective. You are our first guest on our show coming from a legal background, Dana. So I'm very excited for our conversation. Before we start, can you give a rundown about your journey that has made you here so far, becoming an influencer that you are today from your early stage? Enlighten us with your leadership journey, please.
Okay. I think what I normally tell people is that I feel like I've been drafted into the legal world. As a little girl, I could always debate and stuff like that. My family would tease me that they would say you're going to be a lawyer one day.
Hmm.
And I never thought too much about it or anything like that. I was like, a lawyer sounds all right, but I never dreamed of coming into the path of becoming a lawyer uh,
Hmm.
through my experiences. I thought
Mm,
it was going to be just schooling and that's it. But
mhm,
when I got older and maybe around, I want to say age 25, I started experiencing extreme discrimination because I entered into the world of corporations. And
mm,
so I had received my first corporate job with Chase and worked in the home equity department. And when you're not working in the bank, you see a lot more, I guess, tactics than you would normally see. And
mm,
so I wasn't prepared to face some of the things that I was facing. At the same time, while many doors was opening for me, I was being asked to be on the mentor teams and for Chase program for students, 12th grade students. Was also asked to be on the leadership team for that to create games and programs, like team building games because of my background with children and my background with the Boys and Girls Club. And
mm,
so I just I just didn't know that I was a problem as an
mm,
educated Black person, as a Black female, that I was an issue. And it got to the point where the person who targeted me started going to the people on the program and saying, "She's not supposed to be here. She's a dummy." And
mm,
the lady who was Caucasian who ran that program set me down and said, "Hey, this is happening." And
mm,
she said, "I'm going to keep you in the program because the rule of thumb was your supervisor was supposed to approve it." This
mm,
woman wasn't my supervisor. She was my supervisor's supervisor. And
mm,
from there, she gave me hell for a whole year. And
mm,
so I ended up being wrongfully terminated and the filing with the EEOC. And from me talking with the EEOC and trying to explain certain things and trying to guide them, the EEOC agent said, "I'm going to let you speak to Chase's lawyers."
mm.
And I said, "Oh my God, I am not prepared." And she
Uh-huh.
said, "No, you're intelligent enough to speak to them on your own." And I said, "Oh my ma'am, I've never been through this." Chase, I knew Chase lawyers, and these are the ones that were from out of New York. So I was like, "Oh my God, like little old me talking to these lawyers." And
Mhm,
so the first person called and we had a long conversation. It was supposed to last, 10 to 15 minutes, ended up being close to an hour. And so then she came back and brought in another person. And so we argued and debated and went over. And so then they came back and they brought another person. So I'm arguing with three lawyers
Uh-huh.
who have multiple degrees, and I was still working on mines. And so the lady came back and she said, we're going to give you a year worth of pay, which was close to like $40,000, $50,000. So from me winning that case, my friends and family started giving me their own legal cases. And I don't know, I was really good at building a case, understanding what to do, and getting, a resolution. So
Wow.
then I decided, well, I can't afford law school right now. And plus, I'm still working on my bachelor's. Let me go into mediation. So, Franklin County Court of Common Pleas in Columbus, Ohio had a program, and I decided to join that program. And, it was what? I think it's like 40 hours basic mediation training that I needed. And
Mhm.
from there, I just started doing mediation whenever I could. And then I found out about, hey, you can go and become a court appointed mediator. So I started applying for those and got in. But the way they do the will list, you don't always get cases consistently. And
Mhm.
so in the meantime, I'm doing business funding. I'm learning all this business stuff. But at the same time, if a case or something comes up, I can go and do that case with the courts. And so it got to the point where people started recognizing, hey, you need to start doing this because we need help. It's so many lawyers that's rejecting really good cases. We don't know why, and you're good at this. And so I opened up a mediation business first, but I kept being solicited for something more. And then
Mhm.
I started working on a lot of EEOC cases, and my clients would add me to those cases as their representative. And I could be their representative even without being a lawyer.
Mhm.
So when I would get on these cases, I would hold the EEOC representatives accountable for how they move the case. Because if you let it sit, they'll let it sit. And sometimes the EEOC agent wouldn't know how to do the investigation. They wouldn't understand the background systems, the software and call centers and how things work. So I would tell them how to do it. They would get full credit and I would win the cases. Right. And so it evolved from there to me finding this space of, okay, I don't have to be a lawyer to actually do this, but I can't be a mediator and do this because the mediator is non biased. And
Mhm.
people kept soliciting me and hiring me to be the bulldog that the lawyers wasn't being for them. And
Wow.
so I figured out a way to resolve cases without
Mhm.
going to court. And I've had cases with the FDIC. I've actually discovered a full of I want to say discrimination ring
Mhm.
where they literally move people from spot to spot. It was like from level to level until they got you out. And so I was able to talk to the FDIC lawyer. And I remember like the lawyer saw my title and he said, she's just a mediator. But
Mhm.
when I started in on them and really just started, being not necessarily combative, but kind of aggressive and just showing them the patterns and utilizing the affidavit to show proof this lady was actually, discriminating and bullying my client. He started screaming like, well, we need the caucus. We need the caucus. I wasn't prepared for this. And so this has moved me from the FDIC to dealing with a lot of federal cases. Sometimes when people come to me, it may start off in the state or on the local level.
Mhm.
But if I don't get the response that I need to resolve the case, or if the person or
Mhm.
the business is
Mhm.
causing like a lot of friction and problem, they feel like they don't
Mhm.
have the answer me, I create a report and I send it up to the federal and I say, look, this is going on. I need an investigation. And 90% of the time, I'll get the investigation.
Very good. Wow. What a journey and so many golden nuggets dropped by Ms. Dana on this this response. One, I always tell our clients about preparation. Preparation is key to progress. But if you heard what Ms. Dana said, couple of times when she fought or when she found situations, she was not prepared, but still she went for it because she believed in herself. The another thing which I learned as a lawyer with the recent case that you were mentioning, how they really made an assumption, made a judgment based on the title. So people from all the world, corporate world, entrepreneur world, don't let your title fool your people. Your title is not more than you.
Right.
You are bigger than your title. And that's what we just learned from Ms. Dana. So thank you for sharing your story and
Yeah.
thank you
Thank
for pivoting from where you were and how you moved. I'm sure
you.
a lot of families, a lot of employees would be thanking you what you have done for them. Ms. Dana, I come from corporate. Most of my listeners are coming from corporate. And when
Mhm.
I was doing my research on you, you also do workshops, team building, and conflict resolution workshop for your clients. In your experience, when do you think is the right time for an organization to bring you in for these workshops?
As soon as they see difficult problems that they cannot resolve because they just don't have the background in it, or when the leadership team, the head leadership, meaning the CEO, the vice president, the chief financial officer, is ready for a particular change. And
Mm,
so sometimes developing and implementing culture that you are imagining in your mind, it
mhm,
is not always easy. And so you bring someone like me in who knows how to influence the culture, who knows how to create culture. And that's through development games, through knowledge about leadership gifts and leadership identities,
mhm,
because some people don't know what kind of leader they are. They just
mhm,
know they have certain qualities. And so when you begin to target and train and develop individuals into the leadership style that they were born with, it's a much different situation. It creates a very different environment, and people become more accepting of one another.
absolutely. So, if you are undergoing any change or any transformation, please give a shout out to Ms. Dana. She will be more than happy to conduct a workshop around team building and conflict resolution, specifically from her background in building the workshops, not just in classroom, but outside the classroom, which is
Yeah.
game-based learning. I also know a lot of companies, and including the organization that I have supported, we do have some mandatory trainings with relates to harassment, with relates to discrimination, and everyone go through that kind of training. But still, those cases pop up. Can you enlighten us? What kind of common discrimination cases do you see from your clients, and what would be your advice? How would you guide them through the challenges and build that confidence when they are undergoing all these discrimination?
Okay, so the most common for me that I get most of the time is employee discrimination. So employee discrimination, it can be about race, it can be about age, it can be about sexual orientation, it can be about so many different things, religion, and sometimes it's not so easily detected based on race and based on experience, right? So someone like me or who looks like me or who looks like yourself, sometimes we're a little bit more hypersensitive. We know about civil rights. We know, hey, and we know what to watch for since we were kids, right? Our parents went through things, certain things that's happened in our communities. And so we know how to point it out really quick. Sometimes in communities that do not experience a lot of discrimination, especially with Caucasian males, they don't even know it's happening. So about time, they get to me, most of the time I can't help because they've either signed some type of severance pay that makes them lose a good million. And sometimes the severance is so low compared to what they were getting as far as benefits and all this other stuff. And because the clauses are, you can't come back and ask for anything else, you can't really help them, right? But for most other people, discrimination kind of comes in different ways. If you are a good worker, most likely you're going to be targeted to be controlled, right?
Mm,
Because you're producing at a much faster, higher rate, and you may have good quality work. So
mm,
there's multiple things going on at one time, depending upon your job, right? So there's middle management who usually does the discrimination. Middle
mm,
management is going to see you as a problem because you're producing
mm,
at a rate that they couldn't produce when they were in your position. So they
mm,
know that upper management is looking at you too, right?
mm,
And so what middle management will begin to do is say, oh yeah, they're a great worker, but they're A, B, C, and D, right?
mm,
And so you have no idea this is going on until you keep producing at a certain point, and now you're teaching the team how to do it, and they have to move you around because they're trying to get production in the way that you're doing it, right? And
mm.
so they'll allow you to have team lead, and or they might, hey, can you go, Raul, can you go and teach so and so, she's falling behind.
Yeah.
But they're not giving you extra pay. You're not getting any bonuses. All of a sudden, you find yourself in more of a managerial position without the benefits.
Mm,
But then you start having these weird experiences with management. And then your stuff starts going down, or you start getting a list that's different from everybody else, and that's harder, right?
mm,
And so your production is trying to go down. Then all of a sudden, your time is tampered with. That's the biggest thing. Your
mhm,
time will be tampered with. Sometimes they go in the system and change your work and change your comments. It'll be subtle at first, but then it'll become more visible because
mm.
they have to get you out. They have to, it becomes so aggressive. And in that time, you must, I mean, I tell people to fast, pray, meditate. You
Mhm,
have to stay spiritually grounded because the
mm,
attacks can become so bad that
mhm.
it is stressful. It
Yeah.
can literally make you sick, physically sick. And you won't know why. Man, why am I always congested? Why am I always, my back hurt? My legs hurt. I'm always in pain, right? Because the body is literally going through different forms of warfare
True.
that's coming at you mentally. It's affecting your life. It's attacking your livelihood. So you're in an emotional state of stress 24 hours a day. Because even when you sleep, because the warfare is so bad, you're having nightmares.
Mm,
You can't, you're always restless because your body and your mind is trying to figure out, how can I get out of the situation without losing my job,
sure.
especially if it's a good paying job, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep,
so
yep.
then you try to go get help from human resources. Human resources in the past 20 years has changed tremendously. So they're not about protecting the people, they're about protecting the business. And sometimes that means protecting the abuser because the abuser is in a leadership position, right? And
Mm,
so they have to protect the abuser because if they side with you and you get money or whatever, it can get to the news, it can become a lawsuit, all this other stuff. So then all those times middle management went to upper management. Upper management now gets reports from human resources, and now you're a problem because they have worked on slandering your reputation the whole time and you had no clue. And so when you try to get reprieve or try to get some type of help, you're met with so much resistance because now management think, oh, you are a troublemaker, you are this. And
mhm,
so it's hard for people sometimes to see, hey, I need to explain what this manager is doing. And even though you write, sometimes you file complaints with human resources and stuff like that, you have to realize is that the middle management has a different relationship and they're more connected to the leadership and their word stands. And so what you do is one tactic that I find very effective is
mhm,
you show how it affects their money. When I would go through these situations, I started keeping a journal.
mm,
And in that journal, I would write down the violations, what happened, the event, or, if I saw something happen to somebody else, and I would have specific dates. And when something happened and I got terminated, I wasn't calling human resources. I was calling corporate CEOs and vice presidents. And I would hand them in this report and I would say, you owe me such and such. Or I'm going to the news. Or I'm going to have a class action suit. Or I'm going to stand out your building and we're going to record, what's been going on, blah, blah. And usually I would get my severance or I would get some type of money. And so they don't want the drama.
No, I
So,
agree. I think great pointers mentioned by Dana here. One of the aspect I would say is at times when you are growing as an individual contributor, it is a way for management to see whether you have it in you from a leadership perspective or not. And
right,
then they give you an option to do the mentoring and the
right,
grooming piece. But I support what Ms. Dana mentioned, that it should not be to an extent where it impacts your day to day job,
mhm,
because you are not getting paid for mentoring, you're getting paid for whatever you are producing as an individual contributor. So you need to balance that out. And
right,
the other learnings for me in this situation is, when you are dealing with such situation, God forbid you should not, but let's say if you are in that situation, ask for help, and ask for help with people who can help you, not with
yeah,
your colleagues or friends, because yes, you
mhm,
can vent with them, but probably they may not be the right people to help you.
right.
And that's where people or companies like Ms. Dana's company, or people who are knowledgeable on giving you the things which could be your blind spot, giving you the information which you may be missing. And the another piece which I
And I
love,
do wanna say before you keep going
yeah.
is that one of the main things you do is you do not discuss
Mm,
with people around you. Never
mm,
discuss with colleagues, never discuss anything with other management. When you have issues, only go to HR, human resources, or people higher than human resources. When you begin to gossip, when you
mhm,
begin to, because it's naturally to want to defend yourself, right? And it's
mhm,
naturally to want to find some type of support when you feel isolated and alone. Do
sure,
not go to your colleagues, because
yeah,
some of your colleagues will take the situation and use it to get promotions, even if it's 10 cents. Some of the colleagues will go back and say something you didn't say or add to it because they're jealous of your work and they know that you're up for promotion or probably gonna, get something, some higher position. Do not count on colleagues. Always
mhm,
remain professional, continue to say good morning, continue to smile even when you wanna cry,
mhm,
continue to be a model citizen, so to speak, because you wanna be blameless in everything, because sometimes there's cameras on, there's all kinds of stuff that pick up your voice and all kind of things that they can go back and listen to and say, "Oh, no, she was in the corner this day and she was talking to so and so about the manager. So,
sure,
she didn't make the situation better herself." Right? You want to remain blameless. So
yeah,
never go to colleagues and say this
mhm,
and that and the other. Even if you're on the phone, limit it, because sometimes a colleague may come and share, "Hey, so and so did this to me today." And you might say, "Hey, he did the same thing to me." But don't slander that person. Don't get into whatever. What I used to do was become very positive. "Hey, you should try this spa." And
mhm,
these people, you kind of redirect the conversation, is what I'm saying. And
mhm.
you change the conversation to more of a health piece,
Got it.
so to speak, and, showing them different ways you cope with the situation.
Sure. So far as data and the in the previous response, what I was going to continue was the spiritually grounded. Be spiritually grounded when dealing with discrimination. That will help you manage things in a better way. Now, so far we have spoken about employees who are being discriminated. What would be your advice from a leader perspective for a leader who is being charged with discrimination? What do you think they should do? What one, two or three things they should do to make sure that things go as per process? Make sure that they come out as a good leader if something has happened by mistake, because we all are human beings.
Mm.
There are times we don't do things deliberately, it happens. So in a situation where things happen by mistake, what would be your advice for a leader?
Okay, so One thing that the leader can do is never be dismissive. And so taking a witness, meaning maybe someone from HR, maybe someone that's a VP or something, if you're a CEO, take someone with some type of status or elevated title with you and allow the manager and the person
Employee.
that's accusing the leader to come in and sit down and the leader can say, "Hey, I saw your report and I saw your complaints, and I wanted to personally come and understand what happened."
Mhm,
And you let that person talk. Don't
mhm,
be dismissive. Don't be like, "Oh, well, I'm this and you're that," right? You want this person to freely talk. You want the manager to be in support and stand with this person because you have someone as well, but you don't have someone for the same reasons they have someone. They
mhm,
have someone because you are the bigger person, right?
mhm,
You are the person with the most power. So you have to balance out power a little bit. And so
mhm,
that's why you bring in the manager to support the employee, right?
mhm,
And then you have two people in there as witnesses, right? Because we don't want employees who have ulterior motives to lie about what was said and stuff like that. And you want to be in a situation where you allow your person and the manager to engage to also bring out other opinions, right? And
mhm,
to help the situation. And so it becomes a thing of not you against them, but even then, you're operating as a team and you're showing them I can yield to opinions and other people's truths just like they need to, right?
mhm,
And so you take the opportunity and say, well, here's what I'm going to do. I didn't realize that I was coming off aggressive or I seemed to be mean. I don't really mean to be like that. And you go in and you explain your own side of it. I was in a rush that day. I came through the door. I bumped you and I kept going because I had A, B, C to deal with. And from your end, I understand what you're saying. You're not necessarily saying you're guilty of whatever. You're saying,
mhm,
I understand your perspective and I'm not going to dismiss it. But what I'm going to do is, I apologize deeply for bumping into you that way. I didn't mean anything by it. And I'm going to make sure that from now on, you can come to me. I have an open door policy.
mhm,
Anytime you feel something is wrong, please come to me, whether it's me or another staff. We want you to feel welcome in this place. We love your work. And that's when you go into the
mhm.
good qualities you
Positive,
see
right?
in them, right? And so you keep the conversation positive.
Mhm,
Sometimes, depending upon the situation, it's hard to keep it positive, right?
mhm.
Because you have to go through the trenches of the ugly first before
Sure.
you get to the good. And
Got it,
so,
got it.
but never downplay anything, never be dismissive, and never be in denial. Because
Mm,
sometimes leaders, they have so much that they deal with, especially on the financial side. When you got especially petty arguments going on, with the teams or something that is just so like sometimes leaders have a habit of just walking away in their mind and just like, I don't even want to deal with this. This is
mhm.
stupid. And
Okay.
so sometimes those little situations that's kind of petty can grow. And
Sure,
so you
sure.
want to, if you can't get involved, you want to say, always know who's on your team that's really good at conflict resolution. That may not be their background, but who is it that influences everybody in a positive managed manner, and who on the team is good at grouping people together and getting everyone on the same page.
Mm.
Sometimes that's the person in the financial department. Sometimes that's the person in HR who we never see. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? And so, but those are the people that you grab and you go and you let them have a team meeting and stuff, and you'll find the results come back way different if you let a manager or somebody else do it who's closer to the situation,
Sure,
right?
sure. Wow. Great advice for leaders here from Miss Dana. If you are dealing with a discrimination as a leader, follow these advices. I'm sure that will have a different perspective to what you probably know. Now, Ms. Dana, before we move on to our fun segment, we have a fun segment, rapid fire. I would want our listeners to know how they can reach to you, how they can work with you, and what kind of help you provide to our corporate employees or employees at large.
Okay. So you can go to website Carter's Pre-Court Legal Services, or you can find me on Facebook, Carter's Pre-Court Legal Services. You can message me through my website or through Facebook. And for corporate leadership, if you are trying to minimize legal financials and not trying to have corporate lawyers for every single situation, corporate lawyers are needed. And but most majority of the cases within businesses could be utilized by a mediator. You can
Mm,
hire me on a per situation, or you can make a yearly contract. And like I said, if you don't really have a lot of cases all the time or a lot of conflict, you would just call me in and, whenever you need me. But if you have employees, 100 to 500 or more employees, and there's always some type of issue, then you would want to hire me for a year, and you would give me the cases instead and allow me to work it out. I would create the report and let you know, from an unbiased perspective, hey, this manager is doing this. This is what's happening. And I will provide it with human resources. And within that report, it's going to tell you, hey, this is what this employee deserves, because
mm.
I'll show them the evidence. I'll compile the evidence and stuff like that, and I hand it to the human resources, and the CEO of human resources decide which route they want to go and how they want to discipline the manager and how they want to reward the employee.
Sure. We see so many discrimination cases across the world. Your voice should not be silenced. You need to bring those voices up. You need people
Yeah.
who can support you. People are losing life due to discrimination at workplace, due to discrimination in school, colleges. Does not have to happen. There is help available. There are people, excellent people like Miss Carter are available to support you and your family.
Yeah, and I do want to say, when you say people lose their lives, sometimes that bullying and that pressure, it makes people snap. And I remember one time on the job, there was a vet who, personality was a little bit different, but he had been to war. He had been through all kind of extreme situations, and he was on this job where he wasn't getting paid the usual money that he normally gets. And they began to tamper with some of the software and stuff like that, which meant that he got lower pay. And you can see more and more he became more verbally, aggressive and violent. And so I would always sit with him or allow him to sit with me. I was always kind. And people would ask me, why are you being so nice to him? And I said, right now, he needs his team. He needs support. I said, do you not see he's breaking? And so, I've always been the person that's very accepting of other people and very embracive. I don't talk a lot on the job, but during lunchtime and stuff, I'm more open because I know as a team we need each other. But outside of lunch, I'm quiet as a mouse. But one day that guy went off and he said, I'll kill everybody in this place. And you know what he said? Except for Dana. And so kindness goes a long way. And so the whole team looked at me like, oh my God. And I said, I told y'all. So, be kind to people that you see going through things on the job. Even if you don't want to know what's going on, still be kind to your teammates. Still learn how to accept people as they are. And there's a whole lot of different personalities that come on these jobs, and people come from weird home situations. And as adults, they're even worse, right? And
Sure,
so,
sure.
but you still need to be friendly. You still need to be helpful to one another. You still need to treat each other almost like your family, because you're
Mhm.
with these people 8 hours to 12 hours a day.
Sure.
And you have to put the gel together in order to be productive and be positive and have a good work environment. And so
Absolutely.
always be kind to
Yeah.
people.
Kindness goes all the way. And I always tell my clients that as a leader, you are the point of conversation at the dinner table. So
Right.
be kind to people, whether you have done good or not so good. People will be talking about you at the dinner table, whether with friends, family, or their significant other. So be kind and be grateful for what you have. Your job as a leader is to develop people, to take your people, go to the next level, not to snap them, not to punish them. And
Right.
they are human being. If they are not able to get the performance that you are expecting, help them rather than just pointing fingers on them or rather giving them a difficult time. Help them. Now, with that note, we will move to our fun segment. Dana, there will be 5 questions that will be coming your way. We
Okay.
would want you to answer without thinking too much. It would give a very lighter version of you as your personality to our listeners. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Awesome. So the first one is a quotation you live by.
Ooh, a quotation that I live by. Always be ready.
Always be ready. Amazing.
Mhm.
What is one daily ritual that you never skip, no matter how hectic day is?
Meditation,
Maybe.
prayer.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Well, definitely a night owl.
Okay, cool. What's one leadership skill you wish someone had taught you earlier?
I think sharing my ideas.
Sharing your ideas. That's a good one.
Mhm.
Thank you. A final one coming your way. If your career were a Netflix series, what would be the title of season one be?
Scandal.
Scandal. Ooh. All right. Thank you for participating in this rapid fire round, Ms. Dana. We had a pleasure of having you as a guest. Before we let you go, any final word of wisdom for people who are facing discrimination at workplace to boost their confidence, to make sure that they have in them, they have believe in the system to bring their voice up? What would be your final words of wisdom?
So, you can only control what you can do, right? And one of the things is keep your area clean, your desk, put positive affirmations on your desk. Keep your desk clean, keep your desk organized, and make sure that there are points of positive affirmations all around you. So sometimes we swivel in our chair. When you look to the left, you should see something that reminds you of how to keep character in a certain situation. Put things up to remind you, hey, smile, always look pleasant, always come to work looking nice, always have something to keep you focused. And so that regardless of the situation, in
Mhm.
your cubicle, in your area, there's consistent peace.
Awesome. Great advice. And before we end our episode, I want to share my learnings from today's episode. The first one was your title is not bigger than you. It's about you. Don't go for the title, go for developing yourself so that people like you because of who you are, not because of your title. When dealing with discrimination, as rightly pointed out with Dana in her previous comment, keep your desk clean, keep your positive affirmation and be spiritually grounded. Ask for help when you are dealing with discrimination. And I would not want to say worst thing, but do not go and talk about it with all your friends. Right? Talk with right people so that they can help you. As a leader, there are many good lessons that I learned when you, as a leader, are dealing with a situation. Number one, don't be in denial. Number two, speak with someone as a witness, that it could be HR or someone in a higher title. And if you are facing any discrimination issue, make sure you go to the HR or you go to an authority individual, maybe a C level or senior VP. Don't try to solve problem by yourself. Well, I'm sure after this episode, we will be having many individuals thinking about the situations that they may have faced that could be part of discrimination. And now we're thinking, wish we would have seen this episode few years earlier. But it's always better late than never. Drop in the comments what is one aspect of today's episode that you like it. And do not see discrimination. Do not have people do discrimination and do not discriminate with people. Stay positive, stay blessed, and thank you. Thank you, Miss Dana, for being on our show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.